Welcome back to the Explainer, folks. Today, we're diving into something absolutely explosive. We're building a vibrant, high-energy, blue and red commander deck that literally plays like a magical symphony. We're going to unpack the mechanics, the strategies, and the sheer raw power of building around one of the most dynamic commanders out there. So, whether you're a seasoned deck builder or kind of new to the format, this blueprint is going to give you exactly what you need to dominate the table.
Let's take a quick look at our sheet music for today's Explainer. We'll start with Enter the Prismari College, move right into the big spell engine, check out generating Izzet Synergies, then mastering the stack, and finally wrap it all up with the grand finale. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Enter the Prismari College, where we'll set the stage. Meet our lead conductor, Zaffai and the Tempests. I mean, what a beautifully chaotic card, right? Zaffai is a legendary Human Bard Sorcerer, boasting a really solid 5 power and 7 toughness. He costs 5 generic mana, plus 1 blue and 1 red. He's going to be sitting right there in your command zone, ready to lead your magical orchestra. And honestly, every single piece of tech we're discussing today revolves entirely around what this maestro can pull off. Just to quickly frame things up before we get into the crazy spells. In this multiplayer format, you'll be composing a 99-card deck. But here's the catch. You are completely restricted to Zaffai's color identity. That means every single card in your deck can only use mana symbols that appear on your commander. So strictly blue, red, and colorless for us. Plus, other than basic lands, you're only allowed exactly 1 copy of any given card. It's a massive, highly varied singleton arsenal. Oh, and to make sure you can actually cast Zaffai and your giant spells, you'll definitely want to slot in specific mana-based pieces. Stuff like the Great Hall of the Biblioplex and the Resonating Lute. Absolutely crucial for the early game. Moving right along to Section 2, the big spell engine, the rhythm section. Okay, so this is the absolute crux of the deck, Zaffai's core mechanic. Check this out. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your hand without paying its mana cost. I mean, wow, this is monumental. In Magic, mana is usually your ultimate bottleneck, right? Well, Zaffai just takes that bottleneck and completely shatters it. If you're holding an incredibly expensive spell, Zaffai lets you drop it onto the stack for absolutely free, 0 mana. But hold on, because it actually gets even better when we tie this into the whole Prismari magic theme. You see, to really maximize Zaffai, you want to cast massive spells that trigger the Prismari Opus mechanic. Opus specifically rewards you for casting spells where 5 or more mana was spent. So we're casting spells with a huge inherent mana value to trigger these amplified effects. We're not here to play tiny, incremental spells. No way. We're here to drop the biggest, most expensive sorceries in our deck, for free, generating just an immense amount of value every single turn.
Which brings us to Section 3, generating Izzet Synergies, the orchestra.
A conductor is nothing without their orchestra, right? Well, these 2 cards brilliantly illustrate our synergy. We've got Archmage Emeritus and Murmuring Mystic. When you're putting together your 99 cards, these 2 are absolute must-includes to ensure you literally never run out of gas or defenses. Let's break down exactly why these 2 are the backbone of this strategy. Whenever you cast one of those big free spells with Zaffai, you're triggering their abilities. Archmage Emeritus has Magecraft, which basically says, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, you draw a card. Simple, right? Cast a free spell, draw a new card. Meanwhile, Murmuring Mystic sits there, watches you cast those spells, and churns out an army of 1/1 flying blue bird illusions. You're filling up your hand with fresh threats while simultaneously building this massive wall of flying blockers to protect your life total. It is just pure, beautiful synergy.
Okay, let's turn it up a notch with Section 4, mastering the stack, the crescendo. Now, if you want to reach that true crescendo, you have to understand the stack. The stack is essentially this liminal space, a sort of waiting room where spells go right after they're cast. They're in limbo. They haven't actually happened yet. And this gives all players, in what's called priority order, to respond with their own instants or abilities before any of the effects actually resolve on the battlefield. Mastering this timing, that is the absolute secret weapon of any blue and red mage.
So here's how we can deliberately abuse that stack timing. Step 1, you use Zaffai to cast a massive game-winning spell for free. But, and this is absolutely key, instead of passing the turn to your opponents to see if they want to counter it, Step 2, you specifically state you are holding priority. Then, Step 3, you spend 3 mana to cast Dualcaster Mage. Because Dualcaster Mage has Flash, you can play it at instant speed. The second it hits the battlefield, its triggered ability targets and copies that giant spell you just cast.
So why go through all this trouble? Well, because of a really vital distinction in the rules. The copy that Dualcaster Mage creates is put directly onto the stack. It's technically not cast. This completely bypasses your standard counterspell wars. If an opponent uses an Essence Scatter or a basic counterspell to blow up your original spell, your Dualcaster Mage's copy stays perfectly safe on the stack and resolves anyway, delivering that devastating effect. You're literally doubling your impact and protecting your investment at the exact same time. It's brilliant.
And finally, we arrive at Section 5, the grand finale, the payoffs.
This is where we drop the curtain. Heavy-hitting cards like Furygale Flocking or Visionary's Dance act as our massive payoffs. Just look at this magnificent 7-mana sorcery. If you cast this for free with Zaffai, it splashes the board with 2 3/3 blue and red elemental creature tokens with flying. And remember, because you cast an instant or sorcery, your Murmuring Mystic is making a bird, and your Archmage Emeritus is drawing you a card. Just like that, your completely empty board transforms into a highly lethal airborne threat.
But if you want a true grand finale, look no further than Prismari the Inspiration. This is a massive Elder Dragon for 7 mana. It's a 7/7 flyer with a protective ward ability, but we're really here for its static text. It grants all of your instant and sorcery spells the Storm mechanic.
Let's quickly go over the Storm checklist, just so we fully grasp how completely broken this is. Storm means that when you cast your spell, it copies itself for every single spell that was cast before it this turn. And just like our Dualcaster trick, these copies are placed directly onto the stack. They completely bypass being cast. If your opponent wants to stop a spell with Storm, they can't just counter the original spell. The rules state they actually have to counter every single copy individually. So imagine this, you cast 3 cheap spells, and then you drop an absolute bomb with Zaffai for free. Prismari will copy that massive spell 3 times, unleashing this chaotic, impossibly fast flurry of magic that your opponents will find almost impossible to survive.
We've laid out the blueprint today. Huge free spells, massive card draw, absolute stack mastery, and game-ending Storm payoffs. As you go off to put together your 99 cards and play Zaffai into the command zone, I'm going to leave you with this one question to think about. What chaotic, beautiful masterpiece are you going to orchestrate? Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, everyone. Keep experimenting out there and definitely keep dominating the board.